Hi there. It's May the 17th, and today we're continuing our progress through the Good News of John. We're in John chapter 9. We're reading the whole chapter from verses 1 to 41. In this well-known story, Jesus heals a man who has been blind from birth. When they see him, they're still, by the way, in Jerusalem when this is happening. This is still part of the unfolding of the Jesus at the Feast of Tabernacles that has begun in John chapter 7 and is continuing right through to now, and we'll see why in a moment. But as they're going along, they see this man born blind, and the disciples ask Jesus, who sinned, this man or his parents, that each would be born blind? Jesus makes it very clear that this situation is not a result of sin. It's not a result of anybody's sin. But actually what Jesus says is, this is going to give opportunity to God to act. You're going to see the works of God in this man. And so he goes to the man, and he makes the mud and he puts it on his eyes, and he says, go and wash in the pool of Siloam. And now there's something very important here about the pool of Siloam, which is linked to the Feast of Tabernacles. When Jesus in chapter 7 stands up and calls out and says, if anyone is thirsty, let him come to me, he's speaking at the time of the pouring out of the water on the altar that has been taken from the pool of Siloam. So Jesus is actually sending the man to the spring where the water is taken for that ceremony in the Festival of Tabernacles. Jesus also links himself to changing the darkness. Remember, we talked about there being great menorah at the Feast of Tabernacles that are lit, and Jesus said at that point, I am the light of the world. Jesus again repeats that and says, I am the light of the world. And this man is healed, and this man who's born blind, as he washes off the mud, he can see. And some authorities suggest that the kind of blindness he has, when he's been blind from birth, he's actually born with no eyes in his sockets, and actually there's a creative miracle of eyes coming into his sockets. And so when he comes back, he actually is immediately quizzed by the Pharisees. They want to know who's healed him. The thing is, the man doesn't know. He's not theologically astute. He's quite an unlearned man, and he tells them, look, this is what happened. This man anointed me with mud. I went and washed in the brook, in the pool Siloam, and now I can see. And they then are really annoyed with this, and they're trying to catch Jesus out all the time. They even ask the blind man's parents if this man truly was born blind, and what went on. And his parents kind of take a step back. They're worried. It's a shame, really. They're worried about getting implicated, and so they point to him and they say, look, he's of age. Let him speak for himself. Let him say what he thinks. So the Pharisees are really trying to catch this man out. They ask him so many times what happened that the man says, why do you want me to tell you again? I've already told you what happened, that this man prayed for me and I was healed. And they say, well, we don't know where this man is from. We have suspicions about this man. And then the man who's been healed of blindness says something quite comical, quite wonderful, really. He says, how is it then you're leaders in Israel, you are godly people, and yet you don't know where he's from? And do you want maybe to become his followers as well? And then they step back and they really accuse the man born blind of being deceived, and they throw him out. This is terrible. They actually throw him out of the temple. They reject him because Jesus has healed him. And then Jesus comes and actually encounters him. Jesus says, do you believe in the Son of God? The man says, I don't know who this is. And Jesus says, it's me. It's the one who's speaking to you. I'm the Son of God. And the man says, yes, I believe. The Pharisees are still annoyed with Jesus. They're still angry with Jesus. And they say that they are questioning his authority. Jesus says, you are blind. You're blind leaders. You can't see what God has put right in front of you. And they say, no, we're not blind. Jesus says, all right, because you said you're not blind, that actually gives you no excuse. If you were blind, then maybe you could have claimed ignorance. But because you've said you're not blind, you are actually in full sight with your eyes open walking into this. You are rejecting the one whom God has sent. It's an amazing story, and in this sense it's one that clearly demonstrates God's ability to turn upside down our traditions. These Pharisees don't see what Jesus has really brought them, and they remain in that sense blind. Jesus is the light of the world. He's the one who opens eyes. He's the one who pours out the Spirit, which is represented in the water from Siloam. Let's come to him today and let's have our eyes open. Let's have his light filling us. Let's experience the poured out water of his Spirit in our lives. Have a very good May the 17th.